Thanks very much, Peter. I'd like to begin by expressing my appreciation to the Oginga Odinga family for accepting, for being generous and allowing us to come in and celebrate with you this anniversary of a great African, a great statesman, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Dr. Buru, thank you very much as the leader of the family. My friend of many years, Prime Minister Jaramogi Odinga, again, always a pleasure to be with you and your family. Let me say this before I go far. I don't want to repeat what everybody has said about the greatness of this man. I want to say something about greater things we have done, which are not yet in the public domain, and which is people like us who should be doing research and bringing them to you as a way of getting him known better and also getting our country to improve the way it does its business better. I was 12 years old in 1958 when Jaramogi stood in Parliament, Legislative Council, and said whatever the British thought about the 14 members who had been elected in the Legislative Council, the true leaders of the African people are the ones you locked up. Jomo Kenyatta, the Kapenguria Six, and the others. I can assure you from my heart, from what I heard from the elders, because we are still in the village concentration camps, the earth shook. Nobody knew what was going to happen to him, whether he too was going to be locked up, or what was going to happen. But I can tell you, it was a moment that raised people's hearts. Today, I want to use this position in my own small way to give back to that moment of happiness which an awful lot of young children in those villages felt as a result of Jaramogi. Not yet Uhuru has been mentioned. Recently, two major biographies this past year were published, not specifically about Jaramogi, but which mention him. I think if you can bring the two. Oh, here they are. One, it's about the life of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, as you all know, was one of the greatest leaders of the last century. An African American, he was there at independence in Ghana in 1957. He knew Jaramogi, he knew Tomboya, he knew this country. He followed each and every development that was going on. This is by far the most important book published so far. 680 pages, his big book on the life of Martin Luther King. You may not know that Jaramogi, and I'll say this a little later, provided the instruments of accession to Kenya to the United Nations in December 1964 as the representative of the President of the Republic of Kenya. Our membership of the UN, the signatory of that document is Jaramogi. This appears here because it was important. Jaramogi travels to Atlanta to speak to the Student Nonviolent Coordination Conference, and a song arose. I don't know this song, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Oginga Odinga. Martin Luther King knows about this because Malcolm X was singing about this when he was talking about Mau Mau in Harlem. So you can see what we know and what you're hearing from here about Not Yet Uhuru is part of the story. Second book here is the book on Patrice Lumumba, by far the best there is now on the death and the murder of Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba was a person whose life and whose ideas were dear to Jaramogi. He hung his picture in his bedroom. He started the Lumumba Institute. He liked Lumumba's idea. We have Lumumba estate near where he liked to live in Island. This book shows the CIA's mendacity in the murder of Patrice Lumumba, the way he was killed and thrown into an acid tank of hydrochloric acid in Katanga. Two things here which are important to Jaramogi's life. You will not believe. Martin Luther King was accused consistently by the CIA and FBI of being a communist and of being in payroll of the communists. And that made his life hard. Patrice Lumumba was accused of being a Soviet spy. No. Both of them, like Jaramogi, fought for rights of the people of Africa in big ways, in different parts of the world. The only way to make life difficult for them was to accuse them of being allies of communism, of Russia, of China. I feel this is an important aspect when the truth actually comes and is revealed for you to see where we stand. Second point, because I don't want to bore you, I'd like, if you'd like to join me on an interview Jaramogi gave in 1964 when he's being accused of being unlucky of the communists, and a wedge is being drawn between him and Jomo Kenyatta by the British intelligence, CIA, FBI, all those things you are reading in the papers, you see in a moment. If you can please put this video on. I would like you to listen, especially because of the accusations which were being made at the time. Please. Oh no, please, no, go back. Can you put on the video, please? Please listen, because it is important to know about how somebody's political life in those days could be destroyed from outside. Please listen.
He's been Jomo Kenyatta. He's been described as anti-Western and pro-communist, and I asked him what he had to say about this.
Well, let me say that I think those who think of me like that are very wrong indeed. I only laugh at them because they are short-minded and they don't know what they're doing. Why I appear to be pro-East is because the weight has been so heavily overweighted on the western side, because Kenya has been under British. And the Americans' influence here is also very strong. And in order to be neutral, I might appear as if I'm pulling the weight in order to balance it towards the east. And anybody who sees me just I'm pulling in order to bring the balance, they tend to think that I go east. But I am, because I must pull towards east in order to bring about the balance. And immediately the balance comes, I can only be proud to tell you that I'm an African nationalist who will always tour what I feel is right for the African people in Kenya and in Africa.
Listen to
I think
that.
it's also suggested, reported, that you have a private army and that you've been importing arms for this army. What's your comment on that?
Well, I wish I had it, but at the present moment I'm very sorry that I haven't got it.
Is it true that you have been sending your supporters for guerrilla training in Bulgaria and other communist countries?
Well, not my supporters. We have been sending the people who are thirsty for education from this country to go to all this country to search for education in any field, not one particular field.
Is it your ambition to become president of Kenya?
But that is not for me to judge. Let it be that is it the wish of the people. If it is the wish of the people that I should lead them in any direction, in any way, let them. It will be their own judgment and so on, and not mine.
Mr. Odinga, there's been a lot of feeling in Britain about the deportation of Mr. Beeston of the Daily Telegraph. Can you tell us the reasons for his deportation?
But that is known, and I needn't actually elaborate on it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the point I'm making is this. Nowhere in that interview did you hear any allegation on Jaramogi, in his own words, about favoring the East. It's about East and West and balancing it. And he says, I'm an African nationalist first and foremost. If you miss that about Jaramogi's life, you'll miss everything. I'm an African nationalist. There is a very strong story, which you ought to remember, about the humiliation him and his generation went through when they were young and working in this country. At one point, when he was at Maseno as a headmaster of the primary school, the Mzungu, who was his boss, tells him, you don't have the brains of my 6-year-old. You black people are sending Mr. Madhu to Legislative Council, but you don't have the brains of my 6-year-old. Jaramogi spends about 3 pages talking about that story. When he says I'm an African nationalist and I might be fighting for African people, it goes way back. The bitterness, the anger, and the humiliation. Let's not forget that before you get into the propaganda. Second point, I had and wanted you to look at this picture here. This is Cow in 1952, just before the emergency broke out. I want you to look at it because it's not very clear, but Jaramogi is, well, that circle at the corner there. There's Jomo Kenyatta in the middle. Underneath here, at the bottom, is Dedan Kimathi. These photographs puts Jaramogi, Dedan Kimathi in one place, in one day. But history is not as written, giving us that connection between the two and all the others. There is Kubai at the back, there is Jesse Kariuki, there is Chief Koinange, who was arrested after this. We don't know the identities of all these people. Once we digitize this photograph so that you can see the faces more clearly, we will identify who's here. By the way, Jaramogi is in a suit and a tie. This is 1952. So it tells you how much the transitions are taking place. But there's a story in this and a whole lot of other photographs that you can get. Today, Kimathi occupies a larger-than-life place in our nationalism. No guerrilla leader fights without political backup and without the backup of peasants in society. There is a connection here you will not see in the literature so far. We can do the research and bring it to you if we do it right. The other point I wanted to make before I sit down has to do with the legacy of Jaramogi in ways we don't often recognize. I've just mentioned that it was him who delivered the instruments of Kenya's membership to the United Nations in 1964 after independence. Jaramogi also represented Kenya at the founding of the Organization of African Unity in May 1963. the documents accessing membership of Kenya to OAU. That's Jaramogi's legacy. This coat of arms, again, I would like you to look at it, because when you look at the jogo and the axe, I ask students, what does it mean? And they say, well, the jogo was from Kanu, and the axe is there because it shows how strong Kanu was. This jogo and the axe is a legacy of Jaramogi. In Luo culture, when a young man leaves a Simba and is founding his home, he comes to the what? What does he provide? An axe and a cockerel. This is what you're seeing there. And this is the mind at the onset of our independence of this new house which is being built, which must have an axe and a cockerel. You know, I know, I've been taught by masters of this trade, Luo elders. If the cockerel and the axe are intact, the following morning, the omens are good. Proceed. And Honorable Prime Minister says, I've got it right, 100%. Thank you. Over there at Langata, where Prime Minister, you've done a great job with former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to commemorate the scene of why we got our independence. The night before, traditional leaders from all communities went and performed the ritual of starting a new home. And Jaramogi made sure there was an axe and a cockerel. The following morning, they were intact, which means the omens are good. So don't be discouraged as Kenyans. The chicken was there, the axe was there. And the Prime Minister has built, with support of the President, this museum. Tomorrow we'll go and proceed from there. Thank you very much, Honorable, because that's a continuation of that.